Thank you so much for joining us, to all of our attendees and to our panelists today. Good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to the IBK Fellowship Journey webinar. My name is Dorothy Hanna, and I'm the Program Administrator for the CAXT MIT Ibn Khaldun Fellowship for Saudi Arabian Women. In this evening's agenda, we'll begin with an introduction to our sponsor CAXT from Dr. Mansour Alsaleh, and after that we'll have a presentation about how to apply for the program. And finally, Dr. Amal Al-Dossary and Dr. Sharifa Alghowinem will speak about their experiences as fellows. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Mansour to speak to us about CAXT, give us more information about our sponsor. Dr. Mansour is the Executive Director of the Joint Centers for Excellence program at CAXT, the Associate Professor for the Center of Complex Systems between MIT and CAXT, and he's also the Program Director of the Technology Leaders Program and a research affiliate at MIT. So Dr. Mansour, thank you very much for being with us today.
Hi everyone. I'm glad to be here with you today. So I'll try to share my screen. So I hope you can see the screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you a quick overview about King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. But before that, I would like to start by giving you an overview about any research, development, and innovation ecosystem, or an innovation ecosystem for short, just for you to know how are things going in terms of R&D and what to expect from each entity within this ecosystem, and where is the role of CAXT exactly in, or King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology within this ecosystem. So if you look at the top here, you will see the governance or the input, and what we mean here is that we need to have strategy whenever we need to formulate long-term strategy to provide direction or coherence to the government investment and RDI in general. We need, of course, budgets and financing for that. We need a human capital, and we need to make sure to develop skilled national workforce at all levels to meet the need and industrial R&D demands in the kingdom. We need a regularity framework, of course, that support, protect the entire innovation ecosystem. And of course, we need the infrastructure for whether it's the core labs, the industrial labs, the national databases, the research networks, and so on. So this is the first part, or the input, or the governance for the ecosystem. And then you have the main engine, which consists of 3 different phases. And those phases are critical to any innovation ecosystem. The first one is research, scientific research. Sometimes it's called blue sky research or fundamental research. And then you have the technology development, and then you have the industrial deployment. And those 3 phases are really, really critical. And we need to know the role of each one of those. Again, the purpose of this 5-minute presentation, just a quick overview about this. So I wouldn't take that long. As you might know, the scientific research is actually the role of universities. We expect that the universities and research centers to conduct research, new and potentially practical knowledge. When it comes to the technology development, we want to really develop whatever has been initiated in the first phase to have prototypes and proof of concepts. And then industrial deployment, this stage, we expect to have demonstration project that transfer into product mode. Exactly, we are expecting here commercialization activities that scale up the project we have, or the prototypes and proof of concept to the second level. And then we would expect output from each phase. And if you look here in the middle, you will see the TRLs, or the technology readiness levels. And I wouldn't spend time here. The role of King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology, or CACS for short, is actually mainly within development, and we would expect universities to help in the first phase and companies with R&D to help in the third phase. So going back to King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology, CACS, as we mentioned, both it's actually the national lab for the kingdom, and it's also the funding agency. It has four main functions. It has the policy. We formulate policies regarding national plans for science, technology, and innovation. We also provide research grant, and we conduct research ourselves with different research institutes, and we maintain the innovation lifecycle in the kingdom. So I wouldn't spend time here. Just to give you a quick idea, we have many or several research institutes in different domains, whether it's energy, water, ICT, nuclear, and so on. And we also have what we call the Joint Center of Excellence program that try to connect the research institute with top leading universities and industrial partners. We have created the Joint Center of Excellence program, or JCEP, for two main, or because of two main motivation. First, we believe that there is lack of high tech national talent and capability within the kingdom. And also we think that the access to cutting edge technologies and research methodologies and so on is actually limited in the kingdom, and we need to address that. And therefore we have two main objectives for the Joint Center of Excellence program: the increasing the human capital and research workforce in the kingdom, and increasing research quality and IB in general. So we have multiple research centers in different domains. I wouldn't spend time here. I'll just skip this slide here just to give you an idea how each joint center works. We have a co-director from CACS, a co-director from the partner, whether it's MIT or any other university from our partners. And then we have multiple projects under the Joint Center of Excellence. Each project has a principal investigator or PI from CACS and another one from the partner, and for example, from MIT, and then we have researchers from CACS and researchers from the university as well. And we work on multiple projects that have stakeholders within the kingdom. The reason I'm explaining this for you, just to let you know that we really care about the researchers and junior researchers that join CACS in different capacities. And we make sure that they go through an intensive training program that we call advanced training program. So first we select them very carefully. We have really a rigorous filtration mechanism. Once they join the program, they go through a 2-year intensive training program through working in, as we mentioned, multiple projects. And then we try, and the main motivation here is try to elevate their chances of getting accepted in top universities. And then we provide them with a full scholarship for masters, PhDs, and we have we are actually happy to have Ibn Khaldun as the first postdoc program within CACS. And of course, as you know, and I wouldn't spend that much time explaining Ibn Khaldun program, because I know in the remaining items in the agenda, we will do that. So this is where I'm kind of giving you a holistic overview about where Ibn Khaldun fit within the ecosystem, and what do you expect, how can you actually help filling the gaps in this ecosystem. Of course, we have multiple key performance indicators, and we try to measure them, and we compare between them. And we care about, for example, how many students actually, or how many of the researchers get accepted in top schools. And we see also how many papers we have in top journals and conferences. Same thing apply for patents. And here's just a sample of our main KPIs that we look for. So we have over 100 Now, actually, this is a little bit outdated. So we have over 200 students in top schools and in the top 20 universities worldwide. And we have more than 700 scientific publications in top journals and conferences. And we have around 85 patents. So that was just a quick overview about CAXT, or King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. And I'll leave the floor now. I think Dorothy, then I think next for me, Professor Kamal, right?
That's right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mansour. And if you have questions about CAXT and how IBK fits in with CAXT, then please put them in the Q&A feature, and Dr. Mansour can answer all our questions for you at near the end. So I am going to share my screen now, and I will be turning it over to Professor Kamal Youcef-Toumi, who is the program director for the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship, and also a mechanical engineering professor at MIT.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you for everyone for joining us for this webinar. So Teresa, Dorothy, and myself will be presenting and sharing with you some information about the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship Program. And of course, Dr. Amal and Dr. Sharifa will speak also during this webinar. Next. So in this presentation, we will give a brief history about the program, a little bit about MIT, the fellowship, and the benefits from this fellowship, the program activities, a little bit about the life at MIT and also in Boston, and of course, more importantly, how to apply to the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship Program. So the program was established some time ago, around 2008, 12 years ago. This is when we started a collaboration with KFUPM, King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, and that collaboration was on water, clean water, and clean energy. And so at that time, KFUPM was all men university, and today, alhamdulillah, it has women as part of the university. And so it was until 2012 that we admitted the first two fellows to the program, and then it was expanded with Aramco. In fact, it was part of in the board meeting that Khalid Al-Faleh, His Excellency, was asking, why do we have only two fellows in this program? And so he expanded it, to 10 at that time. And the agreement was lasted for about 5 years. Next. And so then the program was also expanded to another 10 years in 2018. And now it is under the sponsorship and partnership with CAX. And I'd like to thank, all of the people who, from MIT side and also from the kingdom, who have worked, to make the program successful. Starting with His Excellency Khalid, who was the rector at the University of KFUPM, and of course Khalid Al-Faleh, His Excellency. Dr. Turki was president of CAX, and then the current president, Dr. Anas Al-Faris, and also Dr. Mansour, who is also from CAX and helping us with this. So then now the program has 10 years, and we go until about 2028, inshallah. Next slide. Yes, so in addition to the Ibn Khaldun program that we have with Saudi Arabia, Dr. Mansour mentioned about the Center for Complex Engineering Systems, and this is another major collaborations that we have between MIT and CACST. There are other programs, and some of them listed on the slide, looking into the world water and food security, the Poverty Action Lab, the Clinic for Machine Learning in Health. These are all programs under the Abdul Latif Jameel sponsorship. And of course, the Center for Clean Water and Clean Energy that I mentioned, that one completed or was completed in about, I think, 2018 or so. Next slide. So the program, of course, has the high support from MIT, and I'd like to we can share the short video to give the impressions of the upper administration at MIT, and this is with Dr. Philip Khoury, our MIT Associate Provost.
Everything I know from the reports of that set of collaborations has been excellent, really first rate. And we're so grateful to have these new kinds of collaborations at and with our MIT and with our faculty. Let me just say, on behalf of the senior administration of MIT, we feel privileged to be part of this program. I really mean that most sincerely. This is a breakthrough program for MIT. I'd like to think for Saudi Arabia as well. I certainly hope so. But we're privileged, we're honored to have you.
Next slide. The fellows at MIT will get to also have access to many research facilities, not only the facilities that are with the individual faculty, but also the other facilities that exist at MIT. And among them is the MIT Nano new lab that you can see on the slide. This is a state-of-the-art lab, not only with the equipment, but the lab design itself is in that way. And a huge lab with the 20,000 square meters that was opened 2 years ago. Many other labs, maybe this is a partial list that you see on the slide, labs that deal with modeling, clinical testing, cell culture and analysis, all kinds of chemical and chemistry type of labs. Others dealing with the different types of fabrication, maker spaces, materials, clean rooms. And so these are all labs that are available, to the MIT community that they can use. Next slide. And of course, in addition to the education and the research, one important part is the patent or the knowledge that is generated through all these activities. And MIT does about maybe at least, I would say, one declaration of patents per day. And we are granted at least one patent every other day. I would say that the other thing that we can emphasize is not the number of patents, but actually the patents that are licensed and then making like useful impact to society. Next slide. And then in the end of this portion of the presentation, I would like to emphasize the ecosystem that we have at MIT. You can see on the slide many partners, and this is to combine, the talent and the resources that exist around MIT. In green, you see the energy-related companies like Schlumberger, and Saudi Aramco has an advanced research and development center. It's actually only about 8 minutes walk from my office. And then in orange, you see the companies that deal with IT and data. And then among them is Microsoft and Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, Twitter. So all of these are around the campus. In blue are the bio and pharmaceutical companies, and you can see a lot of them on the slide. Some of them that I can mention, the Sanofi, Pfizer, let's see, the Broad Institute, the Whitehead Institute, Novartis, and many other companies. And of course, there are the VC or venture capital companies also in this ecosystem. And we add to it the other universities, from Harvard to many, many other universities that are in the Boston area. And with this, I will give the floor back to Dorothy and Teresa.
Great. Thank you, Kamal, and thank you, Mansour, for getting us started. I would just like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Teresa Worth. I'm the program manager of the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship for Saudi Arabian Women. I've worked with the program since 2013, having worked with over 35 fellows over the last years. And in particular, we usually are visiting Saudi Arabia in the fall to do these presentations. The first time in a long time that I haven't traveled to visit you all. So we're hoping everyone is well and that these seminars will provide an opportunity to engage with our program in this COVID era. I also just want to acknowledge that there's something strange going on with Zoom. Having done this many, many times, we're getting some strange blocks on the screen. So we're going to just power through because I'm not sure what's going on there. And we can still see the content of the slides. So sorry about that, but we'll just continue. So picking up from where Kamal left off, what is this Ibn Khaldun Fellowship program we speak of? So the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship is a postdoctoral fellowship for Saudi Arabian women. So PhD holders in sciences and engineering have the opportunity to come to MIT and to do research in collaboration with the MIT faculty member and his or her research group. With access to our facilities and professional development opportunities to supplement your research. Next slide. So we got into this program because we felt like we wanted to ensure that women were as much a part of the future of research in the kingdom as any other researcher. And we have many goals that we hope to address within that, as including, help making sure that Saudi women have access to high quality postdoctoral opportunities, that our colleagues at MIT have the opportunity to work with Saudi women scholars and their teams to foster the continual improvement of the research environment in Saudi universities for both students and faculty, to support the community of our fellowship, our former fellows in their ongoing development and contributions to the Kingdom's Knowledge Society, enhancing the participation of women in the Kingdom's economy and scientific research, which we know is a big goal of the Kingdom overall, and then to facilitate communication and collaboration between MIT and Saudi researchers. Next slide. So we, myself, Dorothy, and Kamal, we all work in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, but we host fellows all around the institute. So far, 17 departments have hosted Ibn Khaldun Fellows since we started this program. So anywhere from civil engineering, chemistry, aeroastro. So should you choose to apply to this program and be admitted, really any area of active research at MIT is an appropriate area to pursue in the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship as well. Next slide. So as I briefly mentioned, we've hosted over 35 fellows to date, in fact 38. Those fellows have had a number of academic successes since they've been here, including over 100 publications in journals and conferences. And we have 3 issued patents so far, with others in the works as well. Next slide. So what can you hope to benefit out of joining the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship is a very important question. So we've covered a little bit about the researches so far, but just to highlight, coming to MIT would include joining a lab and working with MIT faculty and his or her research team. There's a possibility to publish, as I just noted, many of our fellows have in journals and conferences. And I think one of the most important outcomes that a lot of our fellows find for their research is the way that participating in the program helps build their professional networks, both with our researchers at MIT and others in the area. Kamal briefly mentioned the ecosystem around MIT, which is a very close-in shot, but the Boston area in general, I forget exactly the count at this point, has something like over 40 different universities in this area to complement all that industrial activity. So there really are a lot of opportunities to attend seminars and conferences and to collaborate with others in your field. And that ends up being really valuable to our fellows going forward. Next slide. So we also recognize that there are a lot of professional development goals that complement research as you're considering your future career. So we try to make sure that our fellows are aware of and taking advantage of different opportunities for professional development while they're here at MIT. So I mentioned briefly seminars. I think you could fill your whole year just taking seminars at MIT or elsewhere on a variety of topics. There's a lot of opportunities to either go into more depth into your area or even explore different avenues of learning while you're here, in addition to workshops and conferences. There are also a couple of groups on our campus that help with other professional development. So MIT Professional Education does a variety of short courses, both on technical topics, but also soft skills like leadership and project management. Many of our fellows pursue Sloan Executive Education certificates, which are they offer a variety of courses on leadership and management around a variety of topics. And if you pursue a certain number of those classes, you can actually get certified in different areas, which some of our fellows find helpful in their careers. And many of our fellows, although not 100% of them, intend to stay in academia in their careers. So there are a couple of different ways that being at MIT can support a future academic career as well. We offer a Kaufman Teaching Certificate program free to all students and postdocs at MIT, which is a very well-known, very well-regarded program in our institute. That's really the intention is that just taking classes and doing research doesn't necessarily prepare you to teach. So let's see if we can actually intentionally instill those teaching skills in our students and postdocs. This is a group of our fellows who took that program together in 2017. And then you also have the opportunity to sit in as an observer on MIT classes, either for your own educational purposes, if it's a new topic for you, or if it's a topic you teach or intend to teach, it's an opportunity to see how MIT faculty approaches that curriculum. So next slide. So there's a lot of detail on this slide, but the overall message is that we have seen that after going through our program, our fellows have found that they have been able to advance in their careers. And several of our fellows have taken on really exciting new leadership opportunities. I'll just pick on a couple. Sharifa Alghowinem actually has a new position now. I realize we should update this as the Dean of Engineering now at Imam Abdulrahman bin Faisal University. And Malak Al-Nouri, who is actually our very first fellow, is now the provost at FAT University. And there are many others. So we really have found that this time at MIT, the research experience and the professional development opportunities available have set our fellows up for success in their careers upon returning to the kingdom, and hope that that will continue to be the case for you as well. Next slide. I actually ended up talking a lot about this in the last slide, so I won't go into detail. I think the only piece here that is maybe new is that through the fellowship program, you're allocated a certain amount of a fellowship allowance where you can use that to fund different professional development and research activities. And one of the opportunities there that you have is you can hire undergraduate researchers to help you with your research project, which is both an opportunity to make more progress on your research if it would help what you're doing, and also an opportunity to work with our undergraduate students and in a mentoring capacity. I'm sure Kamal, if I gave him the opportunity, would gush about how great our students was. It's really a privilege to work with our students. I find that every day. So that's the opportunity you have as well. And some of our fellows with their faculty advisors have done some co-teaching and class support as well. That tends to be more on a case-by-case basis, but it has happened and has been really beneficial for some of our fellows. Next slide. Some of you may be in a position where your staff are applying to come to this program, or you might be in a position where you need to request some leave and you're trying to convince your boss why it might be a good idea. So we really think that that participating in the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship has benefits to institutions as well. So if you're sending staff to come here, whether it's faculty at your university or employees from your company, I think that your institution will also benefit from the networking that the fellows are able to participate when they're here, building collaborations for the future for your company or university, increasing their research capabilities so that they're better capable of doing their jobs. I also mentioned this before, where I feel like with each fellow that comes here, MIT has greater connections to the kingdoms and to those institutions, and it builds that community. And I think that's really valuable to institutions going forward. Possible publications with MIT faculty can also benefit the institutions, especially if the fellows are coming from a university themselves, new teaching skills and advancement. So we hope that if you're in a position where you are thinking of coming here, you realize that it will benefit everybody as well. So next slide. And just to highlight that, we have worked with 16 different institutions in the kingdom over the last several years to bring fellows to MIT. So if it's something you're considering, I think it's definitely possible. I know sometimes fellows are concerned about getting leave to come here, but overwhelmingly we find that institutions see the value and are willing to work with the fellows to bring them here. And we are thankful to all of these partners who've made that possible over the years. Next slide. And then last but not least, I really think that through programs like JSAP, like the Ibn Khaldun Fellowship, we have a role to play in increasing women's participation in the workforce and in STEM research and development. I was very happy to see this point highlighted in detail in Vision 2030. And if we can be a piece of that, I'm very proud to be a part of this program. So our women are out there making that happen as we speak. With that, I will end my section and pass it back over to Dorothy to continue the presentation.
Thank you to everybody who started to put questions in the Q&A feature. And I just want to remind you that if you do have questions, please do start submitting them there, and we will be answering them soon. We're continuing to talk about what the fellowship is like. We provide opportunities for fellows to do seminars and webinars, which is a great way to promote their research and their career. A few years ago, we had a reunion that brought together all the former fellows here at MIT. And that included training in leadership from the Sloan School of Management here at MIT and talking about moving towards Vision 2030. Another benefit to fellows is the Ibn Khaldun Society. It's a chance for fellows to network and come together to offer seminars, as we've been doing this fall in our seminar series, and support each other as women in STEM. We also work hard to build community among fellows here at MIT, and you can see some opportunities we had before COVID last year to go skiing and to participate in a cultural event where we had a chance to share about Saudi culture and especially Saudi coffee. You might be someone who has children and family members that you would need to bring with you if you came to the Cambridge area, and we want to encourage you that there are a number of different ways to support children and family members here in Cambridge. There's excellent free public education, after-school programs, childcare centers. Eid is a school holiday, so there's a Muslim community of other students as well in the area. Now you're probably wondering, this sounds so great, how do I apply? And these are the selection criteria. First of all, you must be a Saudi Arabian woman who is a citizen of Saudi Arabia. You need to have completed your PhD by the time the fellowship starts. So in this case, you need to have completed before September 2021. But if you haven't finished yet and you're in your final stages, you can apply. It should be in a related field to the types of research done at MIT and within the last 7 years, although there are exceptions on a case-by-case basis. You must have an excellent command of spoken and written English, demonstrated ability to conduct research, and have at least 2 publications in peer-reviewed journals. And your research should be in a field in which MIT faculty have current research. We need to be able to match you with a MIT faculty member who will mentor you. You can apply by going to our website. There's the link there for the application. And the requirements are that you fill out the online form. You need to include your current CV, a letter of recommendation from someone who's familiar with your research. This is really important. The recommendation letter should come from someone who can speak about what kind of research you've been doing, what kind of researcher you are. And we also need a copy of your most significant publication. The deadline is December 1st for starting in September 2021, so it is coming up, and we encourage you to apply. So what does a strong application look like? We want to know about your ideas for collaboration. What is your past research? I mentioned already the letter of recommendation from someone who can speak to your research experience. It will include a plan for the research you would like to do at MIT. We also want you to research on MIT websites, maybe look at papers that are of interest to you, and find 3 MIT professors whose research interests match your own. This helps us know that there is likelihood that you'll find a good match with a professor here at MIT. Once you've applied, the review process is collaborative between MIT and CAXT and includes video interviews, and it goes from January through to the spring in terms of different deadlines, and we'll let the final acceptance, we'll share that information with people by early March. And in June is when we need to hear from people who have been accepted that they mutually accept IBK program. Once you're accepted, there's always lots of questions like, how do I get matched with the professor? We will work with you, give you a chance to speak with professors and make sure it's a really good match so that by September you find yourself working in a lab at MIT. We have some upcoming webinars. If you're looking for even more information and want to learn more from our fellows, and you can always learn more about us from our Twitter and our website. Final slide is thank you so much for listening to us share all this information with you. I think I went through the information fairly quickly on the details of the application, but we hope you'll have questions for us when we get to the question and answer time. And I am excited to welcome our fellows to actually share with us about their MIT experiences. And I think, Amal, I asked you to go first, is that right? Okay, great. Sorry. Dr. Amal is Assistant Professor of Biology at Imam Abdulrahman bin Faisal University, and she's a former IBK professor, IBK Fellow. And thank you very much, Dr. Amal, for sharing with us about your IBK experiences.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come here and speak about my journey as an IBK fellow at MIT. In the beginning, I would like to thank Professor Kamal for giving me the opportunity and support all along my journey at MIT, to Teresa, to Dorothy. Thank you so much. And I would like also to thank all my IBK fellow who give me also the support, and we still and connect. And thank you for making this website available and accessible for every woman in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much. So I would like to highlight in this webinar about my journey before being an IBK fellow and during IBK fellow and then after. So before I came to the MIT, I got my PhD from University of Delaware, and now University of Delaware is more famous since Joe Biden won the election. So go Blue Hen. So I'm very excited about that. So I'm very passionate about research, and I did intense research during my PhD, and I published a lot of papers in most qualified journal like JBC and Nature, and also some of my images have been highlighted in Cell. So after I got my PhD, I was looking for a fellowship to do my postdoc. So at the time, it was kind of difficult as I have a professorship at Imam Abdulrahman bin Faisal. You have to come back to the university and do your part. So, and then I got some invitation to do a fellowship at Harvard, but unfortunately wasn't went well with the regulation in the university. And then Ibn Khaldun come along and I got being accepted. And I did my fellowship in the year of 2017 at Professor Paula Hammond. I did my postdoc there, and I did extensive research. We are interested in drug delivery. The most important, I would add to what Teresa and Dorothy said about all the opportunity in MIT. They tell you all about it, but inside the lab, I'll be more focusing. So in the lab of MIT, it's kind of totally different what we got inside the lab in in our country or in Saudi Arabia. So there you will be more, you will have more access to the facility, you have more access to the professor and also the postdoc with you, and you will build your connection. You will, and the most important aspect of the fellow is building connection and getting a little bit out of the box. You're right, you will do research and you will get more experience in doing experiments you haven't done before, but I would recommend you also to build your connection while you are in MIT and focusing on that, because I'll tell you how this transformed my research in a little bit. After I got my fellowship and came back to Saudi Arabia, I want to continue the research I did in MIT, but the short is very limiting. In 1 year, you cannot finish like in drug delivery. It's big project, at least 3 to 4 years. It's totally different than other program. So luckily, the Ministry of Education opened accepting a grant to do in science, and this is the first field they accepting in nanotechnology. So I submitted a proposal in collaboration with MIT and a former postdoc in my lab at MIT, and now he is a full professorship in Northeastern University. And we make this proposal and we submit it to the Ministry of Education. And luckily, in 2019, we win the grant is over 2 million Riyal Saudi. So this is a big step for me because, you know, a grant and funding and still a little bit difficult as a start researcher. So now I'm having this blessed with this grant, and we are continuing doing the same research we're trying to do. We are doing synthetic exosome for delivering sRNA to ovarian cancer. And this is make me here is more well known, and other institute want to contact with me. Like I did 1 year as a consultant at CAXT. So I also expand my horizon or expanded my collaboration. So now I have a collaboration at CAXT and collaboration at Northeastern and MIT, and also welcoming other collaboration to do and expanding the field. So I'm overwhelmed with all research is coming to do. Even with COVID-19, we still we are able to go to the lab. Alhamdulillah, we are doing our part of research, and luckily we published a review paper with our collaborator, and we start now to do our we start the research, the aim 1. We're finishing the aim 1 of the research. So this is how IBK impacted my life after getting this fellowship, and I wouldn't do this without your support, the IBK organizer support, and above them, Professor Kamal Toumi. He's the one who support us and encourage us to continue, and he knows how women struggle to do research in their hometown. But now with Vision 2030, we are very optimistic, and we know that we have our country looking for us and trying to help us getting our research going. And inshallah, we will be well known to the universe in the near future, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amal. It's exciting to hear about how positive the fellowship has been for you. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Sharifa. She is an IBK Fellow in the MIT Media Lab's Personal Robotics Group. So thank you, Dr. Sharifa, for being with us.
Thank you all, and thank you for all the support. I agree. I think this is a great transition. You picked Amal as a previous, and she already have developed her work, and so you chose me as to be now currently to have the both vision of current and in the midst of the things compared to afterwards. So I like this collection. So I will focus only on how you would find your research group, how you, what are the things that I have done right and what have I done wrong, and what if I could change something, what would I change? So that would be an advice for the coming fellows to consider when they are applying. When I think Teresa asked me to pick 3, and it was so, cannot just pick 3. I picked 6. So it was, there's too many research groups that is so interesting, and coming from the computer science, it also gives more of the technology could just direct your interest to a lot of areas. So I'm not sure about the other fields, but I feel that it's more, we have more opportunities. I tried, before going to the IBK Fellowship application, I was already applying for other postdoc positions all over the globe. And I had some interest on robotics. I didn't want the robots to move, or I just want a robot as a companion. And it was not easy to apply to anywhere when you don't have any background on hardware, on embedded systems. So that was a bit difficult. So I had gotten a fellowship or a postdoc position to continue my affective computing research when we were trying to do deception detection from the facial and body behaviors, which is a continuous of what I used to do. So I felt, I don't want to be stuck in this circle. I want to expand my knowledge and I want to know more. So opportunity of IBK allows this, because there's no much risk for the professors who have you. There is no much risk, and therefore they can accept you, and therefore you could expand in the things that you want to know. So I would encourage you to get out of your safe zone and get to express or expose yourself to things that you are very interested to do, but there will be obstacles if you apply somewhere in other places. So that's one advice. Get out of your safe zone. Take a risk of something, but should not be like an overwhelming change. Having my knowledge of my background in affective computing allows this to be implemented in the robot, and the robot should react or intervene based on your emotions. So it's just a small extension, but it's not like huge. So you should take something smooth transition between the background that you already have. So when I was looking at the groups that I was interested in, I had to look at the research projects. Now every research group have their own website. So go there, expose, see what they're doing now. What are the projects that you're working on? Can they fit your interest? Or you could just switch to something else. So you have to do your research. You need to spend like a weekend or two just to go in details of each group and what their projects are and if they are interested to you. That was one of the things that will also help me to prioritize my groups. So I was interested in several projects, but then, which one that makes me feel more excited and take my breath away if I get there. So that would help you do the prioritization. It also will give you an idea, what can you contribute? So this is a great opportunity, but it's, as Amal said, it's just 1 year, so it's not enough, but how can you utilize this year as much as you can to use it? So if you know what the projects are, would be one of the mistakes that I have done, I had an idea, okay, when I go there, I want to do this, and I have created my own project. But when I got there, there is no way I would finish my project in 1 year. This is one. Second, there is no funding that would allows for this project to go in such scale. For example, I wanted to do a robot intervention for depression because this was my background. But then how can you find the patients of depression? How can you connect with the hospitals? How can you find all facilitation? It's not about the research and doing the research, but how do you get exposed to get your sample, or how do you get your participants who would use this technology? How much time do you need to build the technology itself and then deploy it to people? So I was so I don't know, didn't think it through. So when I get there, I found that it's impossible, and therefore I had to switch my plans very quickly, but by actually attach myself to one of their projects and then and help out and contribute to those projects. That was easier and it was quick, so I could learn more about the robot and understand more about the things that I could adjust to their needs and how the deployment would work. So it was faster compared to starting my own. So when you do your research, think of what the projects that are currently running and can you attach yourself to one of those so you could quickly get benefits of this here. One of the things that I was just very lucky that my group is the best group in all MIT. And I did not research this. There is no way I would, but I feel like I'm in a very good place. People are very welcoming, they're friendly, and we collaborate a lot, and it's beautiful and smooth. I don't know I was lucky, but maybe there is a way to reach out and ask what's the culture group and what's their size, how many women and how many men, and how's the distribution. So my group was happily, they have more women than men. That allows the emotions and the care and the considerations are more. So I don't know, think about when you do your work, when you do research in the groups. So because it's only 1 year, you need to think of how after this year, what would you do? I liked what Amal have said when she's already have the network and have applied for grant applications. And in my work, the data is private. So we have a very restricted data policy sharing because it's video of patients or video of participants that you cannot transfer to. And that's one of the obstacles that I faced. If I go back home, I cannot take this data with me to analyze or continue playing with, and that would hinder my extension. And there is no way I could fix this, but I could just try to reproduce the projects back home with samples from Saudi Arabia. And that's the only thing I could think of to rerun the project there. But if for you, I don't know, it's based on your research, think of how would you extend your research when you go home? Is the data available? Can you share the data? Is there any possibility to take your work back home? So that would be something to consider. So now the mistakes that I have done, I already shared a few, but there are a few things that the first 2 months was a bit of a mess because there's too many things I want to learn. A new culture, a new city. I'm used to the Australian culture was very, very different. Even the Australian culture within the university is extremely different than the US. The US here, especially in my group, I'm not sure about the other groups, it's grant oriented. So each project we work on is based on a grant that they have received. And therefore you feel like you have to contribute to the grant. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. But you feel like you are an employee of a big company that would help you do the project, but also will help you do research and publications. So that's the difference. It feels like a business oriented compared to a pure research in Australia. So that was a bit of different, and that's why the first 2 months was a bit confusing for me, because I was thinking, oh, that's research, we should do this, but we have this grant needs these deliverables, and that avoidable, not to lose 2 months of your time here, to be able to hit the ground running when you come here. So for me, I don't know how to fix this, but it's just one thing to consider. Yep, I finished all my points, and I hopefully didn't exceed my time.
That was perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharifa. And it's great to hear about the realistic experience on the ground from people. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you to everyone who's submitted questions so far, and I'm going to direct our first question to Dr. Mansour, who I know has to leave us in a few minutes. So Dr. Mansour, this question is, I'm currently a PhD student in the USA, but I hold a prospective faculty position in a Saudi university. My question is, can I apply to the fellowship directly after finishing my PhD? Or should I go back home and get promoted to assistant professor to increase my chances of receiving the fellowship? Do you have a recommendation on that?
Okay, so I think we're fine whether she waited or she applied immediately. I think we're fine. The thing we want to make sure is that the university where she works, I mean, the applicant has to arrange with her employer, whether it's the university or any other place, to make sure that they are fine with her leaving for 1 year for this program. We wouldn't exclude her because she didn't get the assistant prof position yet.
Thank you. Let's see. So next question, I think I'll direct this to Teresa. If I want to attach a copy of my second publication, is there a place where I can attach it?
Excellent question. So there's not a place to do it in the application itself. There is an email address that you can use to send any supplementary materials, which is ibkapply@mit.edu. So those are different avenues that you can use. I think just emailing it is probably the best. But one of the reasons why we ask for one in the application is we want to know from you, what do you think is your most standout publication? So picking that one, it's not necessarily meant to limit, but to provide you an opportunity to highlight the paper you're most proud of. So that's the reason for the one publication, and ways to submit additional ones if you need to.
Thank you. This question is for Professor Kamal. If we choose 3 professors, do we need to make a research plan for each lab in the application?
No, you need to make only one, and we will do the matching for you or help you to match. And then when you connect with the professor in the end that you will work with, then the both of you can revise and update your plan in that way.
Thank you. This question is for either Amal or Sharifa. What was the most important part of the application process, and how did you manage to maximize your time during the MIT Fellowship, as it was an intensive year? Maybe Amal, since we just heard from Sharifa.
Yes. The first part is the process of MIT application. Is that correct?
Yes, the most important part of the application.
Yeah, the most important part is doing the interview with the future MIT professor who you will connect with, and then you have the feeling that you are confident to come to their lab and do the actual research. This will give you a push to go to the US and conduct the research. The transition is kind of a little bit difficult from coming back to, so if you are getting your PhD from outside of Saudi Arabia and coming back to Saudi and then come back to the US. Really, the professor who you choose to work with is very important. Not only their research, actually their manner, how the chemistry between you and her or him. So this is very, very, very important. In the beginning, for me, Professor Hammond, she is very well supportive from the beginning, from the interview. She told me, if you want to extend for second year, you can. So from the first expression from the interview, I got my vision, what I will do in her lab. But when you're going to the MIT, the situation, as Dr. Sharifa said, is totally different. The culture, how quick base MIT work, and you going there, you want to do your own research. What I did is doing my own research, my own proposal, and this took me forever. A whole year, actually. I didn't switch. I didn't get the chance to join other team because they already have their own members and everything, but still works for me fine. So don't worry, 1 year is not only the 1 year you will be connected to your professor, because you will have a fellowship, what the word for it, you will be a fellow with MIT. You will be a research fellow after finishing your MIT period. So this is the most important. Experience first, and then continue with your research fellowship with them. This is my question, but can I answer one question regarding the girl who she's still at university. She's affiliated with the university, but she didn't finish her PhD. From my point of view, as I'm the same situation with her, we have to come back to Saudi and finish 2 years before we have any obligation to get any fellowship. So she have to do service at the university for 2 years after she gaining her PhD, and then after that she can apply for a fellowship. This is from my point of view, and from my university I know, and this is how it works in Saudi. So she needs to check with her university first and see if they allow her to do MIT fellowship before coming back to Saudi. Very, very important to talk to her university right now and get the permission, because it's a very long process.
Thank you. That's very helpful. So this is a related question that maybe I'll also direct to Dr. Mansour. Do applicants need to already be affiliated with a Saudi university? Is it required to have a university affiliation?
No, absolutely not. So there is no such requirement. And just to comment on the previous question, I'm pretty sure there's no policy, let's say common policy between universities that they have to come back for 2 years, for example. So it's I think it depends on the applicant university. Some of them would agree immediately, some of them might never agree. So it depends on how they see the opportunity and how they see what the applicant will learn benefiting them in the long term. So
thank you. I think this question will be for Teresa. When do we hear back about the decision, and how many students are you taking in 2021?
So our typical timeline is that we hope to give applicants a decision one way or the other by early March for acceptance for September 2021. And we hold ourselves to that deadline in particular because there are a lot of processes that need to happen in order for you to come to MIT. So we want to give you an answer by early March, and we hope to do so. For next year, currently, we're recruiting for 4 fellows. 1 year to the next, it can change based on different circumstances, but the current plan is to recruit 4 fellows for September 2021.
Thank you. So we've got several questions about finding a PI. So I think I'll direct that to you, Kamal. Do you have to have a PI before you're accepted to the program?
No, you don't have to. As was explained earlier, you need to identify about 3 faculty members or people who are at MIT that you can see that there would be a match between what you do and what you're interested in and what those faculty member or researchers are doing. And that's all what we need from you for the applications. After you are admitted, then we will work with you to identify, the right person to work with and, help you in that process.
And this is a related question. What happens if no PI accepts me to join their group or they have no vacancies for a new member? Would that affect my application?
Yeah, what did we do in the past? I don't think
Well, maybe
we had.
the question for Teresa.
Yeah,
Teresa,
I'll
maybe,
answer
yeah.
that question, sure. So the person who asked the question asked whether or not it will affect your application. We would not have evaluated that necessarily by the point of your application. So we look for the most qualified candidates and admit them. So we would not have any information necessarily about availability in any particular group at the time of your application. If you're a strong candidate and you're the top of the applicants that year, you will be admitted. And then we begin the process of actually reaching out to faculty to try and find a lab for you to work in while you're here. So it won't affect your application. That said, we go through the process after a fellow is admitted of trying to identify a lab that has the research fit and capacity. So far, we have always been able to place fellows, and this is due to mostly Dorothy's very hard work. So what we do is we ask the fellows to provide a short list of possible faculty members that they're interested in, and we reach out to multiple labs. So maybe the first lab you talk to doesn't have capacity or doesn't really have the right project. We'll be working with you to have a variety of conversations. And so far, that process has been very robust. Like I said, maybe the first faculty member hasn't been able to accept a fellow, but we get there in the end. And we're really looking, when we review the applications, for people who have a high chance of succeeding. So if you're of successfully getting placed into a lab. So if we have concerns about if you're a dance major and you have no research, you just love to do performance, I love that, but it's probably not a fit for this program. We're going to be looking for people who are going to be successful. And so far, luckily, we've been very successful at that process. So you don't have to do it yourself. We're here to support you, to make those introductions with the faculty, to help you in scheduling time, to think through what the best options are, and to find that successful match in the end.
Thanks, Teresa. We have a new section, a new question on the application this year. Is there, the question is, there's a section in the application where you choose the percentage of active research. If I'm a PhD student, does that mean 100%? Do you want to answer that, Professor Kamal?
Yes, and yes, yeah. It is 100%. Yeah, if you are a PhD student, so that you're doing 100% of your research. If someone is at a company or at the university, they may have some administrative, work to do or some other responsibilities. And in that case, maybe the research is 70% or 60% or something of that sort. Yeah.
Thank you. And Teresa, question is, if my university is supportive of this program, do they have to contact IBK before the decision to increase the chance of acceptance?
It's great if your university is supportive of the program. They do not need to let us know in advance. So we, again, are looking at the individual fellow and their capability to succeed at MIT. We have not historically had universities send letters of support outside a letter of recommendation. So for the letter of recommendation for this program, the goal there is really to understand the research and your capabilities as a researcher. If that letter comes from someone within your university, that's great too. But ultimately, we're going to find the most qualified candidate, and we're going to help you get that approval if needed. So if you remember that slide I posted with all the different universities who've hosted faculty so far, or fellows so far, they've all been able to make this accommodation. So we feel pretty confident that given the amount of time that we've built into this process with the applications in November and decisions by March, that there's time to figure out those details. So you don't need to have that university approval beforehand. It's great. But if we have a candidate who's not very strong and their university supports them, we're not going to select that person over somebody who is really strong research, but doesn't have the pre-approval from the university. We're always going to go for the person who has the strongest research capability and ability to succeed in the MIT research environment. Maybe a long version of your question, but hopefully that helps.
Thank you. I'm going to combine two questions about the proposal. First is, how detailed should the proposal be? And should the research problem or area be explicitly explained at the point of submitting the application? And the second one is, should I work on my proposal, or can I join projects already running in the PI's lab? Professor Kamal, do you want to talk about the research proposal?
Sure. Yes, thank you. So the research proposal, I think there are like two parts, right? In the there's one describing like your current or previous work, and I think in that one one can speak about the context of the project, the importance of the problem that you have been working on. And also, the contributions that came out, from that work. For the new work or the new research. So for that one, you can do something similar in terms of the background, in terms of the importance of that work. Perhaps the expected outcomes that you can see from the work, if everything works out for you. And since you haven't done the work yet, so obviously you cannot say, what those are, but at least you can imagine, what those could be. And it could be in some area that you have been working on and you want to continue in that one. Or as Dr. Sharifa emphasized earlier, that it could, maybe this is a time for you to start a completely new, a new research work for you, or expand, in a different direction. Yes.
And I think, Dr. Sharifa, you said you wrote a proposal of what you hoped to work on, and then once you got to MIT, you found it was important to change course.
I did not write. I was just have the plan in my head.
Okay.
I don't think at the time you requested a full proposal. We just wrote like a few sentences what we're hoping to do, so that was different. But I think I'm one of the people who pushed for having an actual writing of a proposal, because it feels real, and especially that when we discuss the proposal with the PI, that would be that would reduce the 2 months of that could be lost in the beginning, especially if the proposal is being written with the PI, so she agrees or he agrees on what's the content. Because if for example, if I wrote my proposal as for depression intervention with the robot, my PI would say, no, there's no time for this from the beginning. So I would know that I should change routes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. That working on the proposal beforehand, before coming to MIT with your professor or researcher at MIT, then when you get to MIT, you're already set, and then you can start, from that point on.
I hope this helps clarify about the proposal writing section of the application, but if you have more questions to clarify, please do put them in the Q&A for us. The next question is, are the Whitehead and Broad Institutes part of MIT? What about Dana-Farber Institute? And I can answer quickly that Broad and Dana-Farber are not. Whitehead, I'm not sure. Do you know, Teresa?
Sure, I can comment on that. So there are MIT affiliated faculty who have joint appointments at both Whitehead and Broad Institute. So it is possible to work with either of those institutes as an Ibn Khaldun fellow, but it's very easy to accidentally go down the wrong path, because a lot of the faculty that work at those institutions do not work at MIT. They work at Harvard, they work at other places. So if you're interested in a faculty member who happens to work at one of those two institutes, do double check that they work at MIT, because we've definitely received applications saying, I really want to work with this faculty member at Harvard, and we can't really help with that. We work at MIT. This is a fellowship for working at MIT. I just saw a little pop-up about the Koch Institute related to this as well. So that's an example of an institute that is internal to MIT. So all of their research is MIT research. So it is a little confusing. I think the advice I would have is, if you find a faculty member that you're really excited about, just simply search in the MIT website to see if they're at MIT, because there's more gray area there than you would think. To my knowledge, there are not any co-appointees at Dana-Farber. However, our researchers who happen to be working in medical areas have collaborations with all different organizations in the Boston area. So it wouldn't be out of the question to find that an MIT faculty member was working collaboratively with Dana-Farber, but I think it would be very surprising to find that any of them were co-appointed there. So before you get super attached to a faculty member, please do find out whether or not they are an MIT faculty member. Otherwise, we can't help.
And if you're not sure, you're welcome to email us at ibk@mit.edu, and we can help you check. Professor Kamal, thank you so much for being with us. I know you need to leave soon. And we have a couple more questions I think we can easily answer, but before we do that, I want to thank everyone for being with us. Dr. Sharifa and Dr. Amal, thank you for giving us your firsthand experience. Professor Kamal, anything you want to say before you need to go?
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for the people who have attended this webinar. I also would like to thank Dr. Amal and Dr. Sharifa for their time and sharing their important experience with our new fellows. And to you, Dorothy and Teresa, thank you for setting this up. Sorry that I need to go. I have another meeting at 1:30. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sharifa, anything else you have been thinking about that you'd like to share?
I think I've covered all the points that I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. What about you, Dr. Amal? Anything else that has come up for you?
I think we covered the most aspect. I don't think I haven't talked about, but I wish all the prospective fellow all the best, and good luck in their application and choosing their right professor. And I'm pretty sure they will be in good hand with Dorothy and Teresa and Professor Kamal. And if they need any help in cancer research, I would love to help them in that matter. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate both of you being here. And I think Teresa and I can stay on for a few more minutes as there's still questions coming in. But Dr. Amal and Dr. Sharifa, if you have somewhere else you need to be, please feel free to drop off the meeting. But we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing. I'm sure that the next fellows will be in good hands.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Let's see. Okay, next question. Do you recommend contacting multiple PIs from MIT before applying to the fellowship? Teresa?
Sure, yeah, I can speak to that. I think that it's always interesting if applicants have connections with the MIT faculty before they apply. We're happy to support any ongoing connections that you do happen to have. It's not a requirement though. So I wouldn't say that I necessarily recommend doing it. Faculty are very busy, and I think sometimes you can end up sending a lot of emails without a lot of response, especially now with COVID. So I wouldn't say it's necessary. I wouldn't spend a significant amount of time doing that. If you have a connection already, you can certainly share that with us. But again, we're here to recruit the most qualified fellows and then to help you make those connections with faculty. So it's absolutely not required that you have a connection with a faculty member beforehand. So hopefully that answers your question.
Related to that, there's another question. Do you interview with the prospective professor before being accepted?
Yeah, thanks for that question, because I think Amal was mixing several aspects of the program. No, so for the application process itself, you do interview with the IBK team. So that means me and Kamal and Dorothy during the application process. And then after acceptance, we set up interviews with potential faculty advisors. That happens after you're admitted to the program.
And moving on to papers, how many papers do I have to have in order to apply, and how do you have any specifications regarding being the first author?
Yep. So the minimum requirement to apply to the program is that you have 2 peer-reviewed publications. We don't have any specifications about whether they need to be first author. In fact, often applicants don't have 2 first author papers, so it's not a requirement. But I do always say that it is a competitive program, so having that first author is not required to apply would certainly be taken into consideration by reviewers when considering the relative strength of application.
Next question, how many recommendation letters are needed?
Don't let me get
one.
this wrong. It's just one, right? Okay. So we require one. You can certainly have more than one, but one is required. And certainly, as Dorothy mentioned in the or as we mentioned in the presentation, the quality of that recommendation really does matter. Our reviewers do read them. And the thing that really stands out in those letters is if the reviewer can really speak to the research, your contributions to the research and impact of the work that you've done.
Great. And final question, I think unless anybody wants to submit more questions, which you can, does review papers count? I think this means, is the journal peer reviewed? Mm-hmm. And yes, it is very important that the journal that you publish in are peer reviewed.
Yes. They might be referring to, sometimes they'll do literature reviews and have that as a paper. But I think you still answered it in the correct way, which is that as long as it's a peer reviewed publication, it would count for the minimum criteria.
Next question is, I applied last year and I was successful to get interviewed. Can we ask for personal feedback to focus on areas to improve? You want to answer that, Teresa?
Sure. It's been some time since those applications, so I'm not sure if our team would remember the detailed feedback they'd be looking for, but you're welcome to reach out to the team.
Yes, if you email ibk@mit.edu, if we have feedback, we will give it to you. And are the reviewers from MIT?
So the applications are, all applications that we received are reviewed both by MIT and by CAXT, and we compare our notes in order to select candidates for interviews. The interviews are just on the MIT side, and the final decision about who to admit to the program is on the MIT side.
Thank you. Well, I think that is the end of our questions. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And I do encourage you, if you have more questions, you can email us. And we are looking forward to reviewing your applications and having you potentially join us at MIT in the future.